Welcome to Now, Near, and the Future with Nyla Mir and Quinn Harrington. A podcast that's part crystal ball, part microscope, and part rocket ship.
Welcome to Now, Near, and the Future. I'm Quinn Harrington.
And I'm Nyla Mir. Today's episode is about fashion that doesn't cost the earth, literally.
We're not talking about red carpets or catwalks. We're talking sustainability. What we wear, how it's made, and why it matters.
Our guest today is Naz Pauperio, a communication expert and also co-founder of FIFI, a Portugal-based brand challenging the fashion system, I'm going to say, or industry if you want to call it, with sustainable style and fierce values, which we will get into a bit more.
So if you're a trendsetter or a conscious closet minimalist, it doesn't matter. This episode is sure to entertain you.
We're going to stay true to what our brand is now, near, and future, and we're going to jump into the now of segment.
Now,
Fast fashion. It's affordable and it's a bit of a mess, people say, environmentally. Naz, what's the reality from your perspective?
Firstly, thank you very much for having me. Very excited to be here to talk about something very close to my heart. So FIFI was born out of the fact that we were using our own children's clothes to recycle through all of our all of our kids, and we could see that durable clothing really lasted. And for us, this was really important. Because we know that 10% of carbon emissions come from the fashion industry. So to be able to actually recycle and reuse the clothes for our children meant that we had a story to tell through each piece of clothing and each garment, but also we were protecting the planet through this recycling and reuse. And that's really where FIFI was born from.
This world is dominated by big retailers, right? And most of them talk about sustainability in their value chain. Some call it greenwashing. How do you stand out as a brand?
Even the brands that are talking about being extremely sustainable are bringing out new collections on a daily basis. So you'll see big brands who say we're really looking after the planet, we're very conscious, we're sustainable. But then if you go to their websites, you'll see that in one day, they might have released 50 to 60 new collections. And this is really about overconsumption. So at FIFI, we don't have new collections, we don't have trends, we aren't following trends. We have 6 items of clothing. They are there all the time. They are black, simple pieces made to last. So the idea is that the clothing actually grows with you. We don't want it to be thrown away. We don't want you coming back to our site to buy lots of new items. We really want to have a few customers, but coming back very rarely. It's really about that piece of clothing lasting, being there for the future, made from ethically sourced local production. So we're based in Portugal. We produce all of our garments in Portugal, and we actually ship from the country that you buy in. So this is another big feature. We're not shipping things across the world, so we don't have a large carbon footprint, and we just have one collection.
This is blowing my mind. This is like the exact opposite of everything that we learned in about marketing, especially when it's coming to, consumer packaged goods, which you could consider apparel one of those. Even very eco-conscious brands, they're launching new lines at least seasonally 4 times a year. So they may be just variations in color or variations in cut, staying on the same theme, but there's always something new. How do you address consumers who are like, okay, so I bought all 6 pieces, now what?
It sounds kind of crazy, but our model is not to make huge profits. We're not looking to become a big corporation that's kind of, got wild profits and taken over the fashion industry. We really want to have lots of customers that come to us, but really they're buying one piece of item and they don't need to come to us very often. And the other big thing I think about FIFI that's important to talk about is we don't believe that your clothes express who you are. It's black clothes. The idea behind it is something like a stagehand that's sort of in the background. The clothes aren't what expresses who they are. You are who you are. What expresses you are your thoughts, your actions, the things you do. It's not your clothes. So your clothes are black, they're simple. You can sort of be in the background, but you can still express everything you want to in the way that you do things. And I think that's one of the issues we found with the fashion industry as well. It's trying to convince people that if you buy this piece of clothing, you're going to look better. If you buy this piece of clothing, you're going to feel better. You're going to be a different person. We don't believe that at FIFI. It doesn't matter what you wear. So as long as you're wearing something that's made to last, that's comfortable, that you feel good about buying because it's been ethically made and sourced, that's what's important. And that's, for me, another reason why FIFI stands out.
Is that why you don't call yourself a fashion brand? Is that right? Right?
Absolutely. It's a difficult one because we are obviously operating within the fashion space, but we don't think of ourselves as a fashion brand, exactly to your point. We think of ourselves as a sustainable clothing company. That's how we've sort of called ourselves. That's how we refer to ourselves. It's about sustainability. It's about durability. It's about simple clothes that are made to last. We are not going to have trends, or we're not focusing our marketing on how people look and feel. It's really about the fact that you would have the same values as us. So we expect the people that are coming to us to share the same values that we have as founders of the business. We want a future for our children. We want a planet that is protected for our children. And that's where we believe we're going to resonate. And we do believe there are enough people out there now that feel the same way, that have the same beliefs. And that's why we're quite confident that there will be an audience out there for us.
It's interesting though, isn't it? Because I'm just thinking about it. So fast fashion is I buy a new thing every time. You're doing the opposite, slow fashion, kind of. But with that comes that behavior change in buying habits, right? So we've been so used to wanting to look great with the clothes we wear. You're saying be minimalistic with it, but how are you going to change that behavior? One is they connect to your values, right? So I'm already a believer that I don't want to buy something. When I buy something, I also throw away something or donate, not throw away, I donate something. How are you planning to shift that behavior, or do you already see it?
I think I already see it. I mean, a really big example is the growth in platforms for reused clothing. They're becoming mainstream now. I mean, you've got platforms like Vinted who are now mainstream and sort of some of the biggest players within markets and countries like France. And this is huge. They're competing against huge fashion brands like Zara, like H&M. And actually, they're the ones that are now growing, that people are going to. I think the younger generations are very conscious. They really believe that they can have a tie with their sort of fashion and their beliefs. And that means that they will be wearing reused items. They will borrow things from friends. They believe in the sort of circular economy and the loop of, let's borrow something from a friend, reuse it, pass it on to another friend. And I think this has been growing for a while. And I think brands are having to actually adapt to that. And that's what I'm liking about this industry, is that actually consumers are leading the way. They're the ones sort of dictating and saying to the brands, this is what we want to see. You can see the brands already now are trying to buy more sustainably, use more sustainable materials, but we're still not there yet. And I think the whole recycling it's got to a certain point, but it hasn't really grown as much as brands necessarily have wanted to. And that's why I believe the reuse is actually the place that it's going to really grow in the future.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan and proponent of retailers like Poshmark that have huge marketplaces, and essentially you're buying from a friend's closet. So they may have items that they've worn once or maybe bought on a whim, and you can get things that are new with tags. So it's not just very high fashion things, Prada, Gucci, that kind of thing. It's, everyday brands like, Lucky or Free People or, Birkenstock or whatever. Although I would never buy used Birkenstocks. I mean, that's just,
It feels weird.
they get disgusting over time. So I don't advise that. But, I would say probably half of my closet is purchased from some kind of thrift or reuse website like Poshmark, and I've had really good luck with almost everything. Some things like like jeans or things that are more difficult to, to find the perfect fit. I've had some misses on that, and we'll talk about that in another segment coming up soon. But I'm a firm believer in you know companies like Poshmark who are enabling that, and there's another company here in Jacksonville, Florida called Rethreaded, and essentially they take old garments and then recycle them and turn those into new products of all different kinds. And there is a charitable cause behind that to help, like, um, homeless and people who are disadvantaged. So there's
I
a
love
lot
that.
of feel good for
Mm,
that,
mm.
and I would love to see more of that kind of movement in the future.
I agree, and it's interesting seeing the younger generation. We have teenage nieces, and I recently went on a shopping trip with them and assumed we would be going to the local mall and to one of the big brands, but actually we went to a charity store. And they were sifting through the rails, looking for what they could pick up. And there were things from, items from probably older generations that were back in fashion, that were in trend. But it was so nice to see that a lot of the stigma that maybe we had as children growing up around secondhand clothing or items that were used, I think doesn't exist anymore. People really care about actually just protecting the planet, being conscious in their behavior of purchasing. And I really love that. It's something I really want to embrace and something I think is great for our future sort of generations.
I know. Now you're making me think about stuff. You're making me think, oh my God, I need to go visit my wardrobe. And especially with a baby, right? 14-month-old who grows very quickly. So I mean, I had a friend at Unilever. She basically sent down her daughter's clothes for Isa, and most of it we've used till the age of one. But now when I go out, I just can't help look at new stuff, and then I'm like, I do look at the labels and see, is it sustainable? Where is it sourced from and all of that? But I still am not in that mind shift. And I also like color, by the way. So you said black is you've got black clothing. But what about a person like me who believes in what you're believing in but wants color?
I mean, there's potential as time goes on. We have had customers saying, we love what you're doing, we love, but maybe branch out into grey or into white. And it's something that it's not totally off the spectrum, but I think for now we want to try and stick to as much as kind of core origins that we're trying. But if it grows and if there is sort of the market and the demand, then of course we would like to see put available to what customers want.
I mean,
So that's
charcoal is the
important.
new black, so
I know, I do love a good charcoal. I
Naz, you
mean,
might be just a slight bit off trend. If they had been all charcoal, I would have been like, she has got it. So
yeah, I think we're always open to, looking at where there's room to improve, room to, answer the questions of customers and what they're looking for. It's really about saying, look, do people like what we're doing? Is there enough interest? And we'll take it from there. So, and again, it's about slow growth. So, we're not looking to do fast expansion and big profits. About slow growth and doing it in a conscious way.
all right, shall we go around the room?
Around the room.
Let's talk about fashion
Yeah.
wins and wardrobe sins. Well, we've talked a lot about wardrobe sins, and we're all, feeling the guilt after this conversation with Naz about our consumerism and vanity. Any fashion wins anyone wants to talk about?
Flares.
Fashion wins.
Flares?
Flares. I mean, they just, for me, they're just the wide leg flare jeans. I've got some from university days. I mean, I really am a big believer in reuse. I've got clothes that I have worn since my university days. And as a mother of three, it makes me push myself to have to be healthy, eat healthily, do exercise so I can get back into those clothes that I
Yeah,
used to
because that was going
wear
to
that
be
I
my
love
other
so
question. I was
much.
like, well, what if you don't? What if you're not the same size you were in your university
It
days?
forces you into it. I mean, I love
Or
eating.
Nyla, I mean, she just had a little baby. You can't be
But she
like,
looks great.
shaming her,
She's
because she
obviously
gained,
doing something right.
15
Uh-uh.
vanity pounds. So,
No, I've got the same thing. I have actually kept my clothes, A, because they were new. And I was
right.
like, no, I refuse to. I'm going to fit into it. But because the fashion
Mm.
keeps coming back, and I don't follow fashion, I have my own fashion. So even if
Yeah.
flares was out, I was still wearing them. And the same with
Yeah.
my Pakistani clothes. I really don't care what's happening. I keep my stuff going. So that's probably my fashion win. But we're also lots of sisters, so we kind of recycle amongst each other. We're six of us. So it just goes round and down to our
Yeah.
nieces.
Nice.
What about you,
Very
Quinn?
nice. Fashion win recently. Since we're talking about sisters, one of my besties, it used to work for Ann Taylor, and so
Oh.
she overshopped and came over during her time there and came over with about $1,000 worth of clothes, new with tags, and she's like, "Here you go."
Wow.
And this is one of those shirts,
Oh,
actually.
wow.
So yeah,
Very
so
nice.
that's definitely a fashion win.
Oh, that
Fashion
is.
sin. It was Amazon Prime Day recently, and everything was on sale, and so I had some stuff in my cart and wish list, and I bought this pencil skirt. I mean, you want to talk about fast fashion? I mean, I got it. I tried it on. I was like, this is garbage. I mean, it's just
Oh.
complete garbage, and
Oh no.
so it's going back, and I felt bad about that, and I sort of feel like our friend group, we fall into two camps. Either you shop at Nordstrom, which is like Lord and Taylor, in the UK, or
Yeah.
they shop Amazon Prime and Shine or Shane, whatever
Oh,
it is.
Shein, yeah.
Oh,
Oh
Shein.
no,
Shein.
that's a
I
big
was like,
no-no.
God,
That's where the
really?
landfills are getting their clothes
Really?
from.
Oh no, it's gonna last 10 minutes, it's gonna tear or the zipper's
No.
gonna break and then it's just
Absolutely,
so.
absolutely. And it's really hard to, step away from that and actually say, look, and I don't want to be sounding like I'm taking the moral high ground, but because I really understand, we're all going through cost of living crisis. We're all understanding that, we have to tighten belts, etc. So when you have these companies like Shein or Reserved, all these, sort of just marketing you with these new clothes, incredibly reasonably priced, it's hard to resist and sort of say, no, I'm going to, spend that little bit extra and go for something that's going to last longer. But I truly believe it will last longer. It will stay with you for longer. And so that investing that little bit more in the short term will pay off in the long term.
Very good. So I guess Naz, since you
I
wear all
dropped my
black, you're gonna
papers.
have to. You did. All right, I'll introduce our
I
guests
did.
while you retrieve that.
Go ahead.
Naz
Please
Pauperio
do.
is a communication strategist and co-founder of FIFI, a Portugal-based sustainable fashion brand. She's on a mission to prove fashion can be thoughtful, long-lasting, and still make you feel like your best self. She leads the comms and marketing side of FIFI and believes clothing should add value, not waste. Okay, so let's move into and Naz, thank you again for joining us. So let's move into the near future.
Near.
What's next in sustainable fashion over the next couple of years? 2 to 5 years, let's say.
I mean, I think that actually you're almost going to get to a point where there's like a digital passport for items of clothing where you can track all the way back to the origins of the garment to see where it was sourced, where the materials came from, have things been recycled, have things been reused. And I think that's transparency is something that customers are going to eventually demand and brands are going to have to catch up. I don't know how quickly we'll see that or how quickly we'll get to that point, but I do believe we are getting there.
As we're moving more into, organic, um, produce, poultry,
Yeah.
things of that nature, the consumers are wanting to know more of the backstory of, how are these chickens raised?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, what is the beef being fed with? How are they being treated and slaughtered and things of that
Yes,
nature? So, how
exactly.
would something like that
Mm.
work? Because I mean, if you think about a parcel, and we're talking like billions of items that get created every year, how do you track all that?
I mean, I think it's incredibly difficult. I think it's a huge shift in both mindset and infrastructure. So I think companies have to start and look all the way back to the point of assembly and almost sort of disassemble the piece of clothing, the beginning, and say where is this coming from, and how can we sort of create that sort of value in the chain for the customer. So I think that it will take time. I think that brands are going to start to question sort of the value behind it, but realize eventually that customers do want this. They want to see this. And there's something around sort of recyclable clothes. So people will say, oh, this is 100% recyclable, but actually it's very hard to get something 100% recyclable and 100% sort of sustainable, because a lot of items of clothing will have plastic built into them, and people won't know that. So you really have to dig deep as a consumer, and people don't have time, they don't have the energy to do that, which is why I think that the onus will then be on the brands to present that transparency, so people can sort of take a look at a label and say, right, let's track this all the way through. And also to Nyla's
Yeah.
point earlier about where did this ship from? You might say, oh, I bought it from here, but actually half the parts came from across the world. So it's understanding the entire piece, from sourcing to supply chain to, transport, packaging, where is it being held in between going from your house to the storage, so there's lots of factors that come into play here.
And there's a lot of factors that impact the value chain, right? We're talking about the value chain, and you have to have partners and they have to be sustainable. I mean, Unilever's been in this space
Absolutely.
15 years where they're talking about sustainable tracing all the way down to the farmer, right? But it's a lot of work. It's an industry shift as well, right? A systemic one.
Completely.
We've seen it in the consumer packaged goods space, um, to the effect that that becomes a reality in the fashion space. I think it'll be an exciting, thing to watch. I would say that over the last 15 years, there's been a huge, shift in that CPG space. If you look at a lot of your big box retailers, like say Costco, I've been a member for like 20 years,
Mm.
and back in the day, they just had basically all of your your primary household name brands, and most recently, I've seen more organic, more sustainably sourced, more um, ethical products on the shelf at a reasonable price, to the point where it's like, well, why would I buy that anymore? Because this is better quality, it's better for me, and in a lot of cases, it's cheaper. So,
Absolutely.
Mm.
And I think
so there is some
sorry.
benefit to economies of scale. I know you said you don't want to be big, but being big and doing things the right way, is a noble goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a big piece here around sort of legislation and governments having a role to play, because they need to start to sort of demand of brands and companies, if you're selling X number of clothes, X number can't be on a landfill within sort of 2 weeks, or protecting labor laws and labor practices. We know that a lot of these companies that are pumping out all of these clothes that consumers are demanding actually have terrible labor practices, and there's people in horrendous living condition, with horrendous wages. What are we doing about this? This is being allowed. This is, there's not enough legislation around this. And I think that's really important. Governments really have a big role to play here. They're the ones that can have a big impact on brands and on organizations. So as consumers, again, we should be demanding that and sort of crying out to governments to make these changes.
We can only have a say in the governments that, in the countries that we reside in. I recall probably about 15, 20 years ago, a company called American Apparel came on the scene, and um, they hired people locally in Los Angeles, in a factory with, products. I believe all the products were sourced in America. And, the price point on a t-shirt was probably like 30% more. But then you got one and realized, wow, this is great quality, and, they're not being made by people in sweatshops in Southeast Asia. So,
Exactly.
I know that that's troubling, and anyone with a conscience, doesn't want to be, purchasing anything from, those kinds of labor sources.
Exactly.
So, one of your philosophies is to encourage people to buy less and buy better. What does that mean?
I think it's about sort of understanding the value piece. It's about saying you don't need lots of new clothes. You don't need lots of new items of clothing to make you feel a certain way. It's about saying that, have fewer items that are good quality. We believe that your clothing should grow with you and not be thrown out. And that's really important to us. I guess I feel strongly about that. Like I said to you before, I still wear a lot of clothes from my university days, the ones that have sort of been built to last, I still love. And I think that's really important. It's about saying, we really believe in the quality of our clothes. We went to the factories, we looked at all the samples, we tested them, we wore them ourselves, we've put them through lots of washes, we've given them to friends. They are good quality clothes. We believe in them, we wear them ourselves. And we believe that you don't, as a customer of FIFI, need to come to us and buy, one every 6 months. We'd be happy if we don't see you again. That sounds kind of crazy, but that's what we believe.
Again, you're blowing my mind here. I'm like, can we stop the mic? She doesn't really mean this.
We're simple people. We have simple wants and desires. We just want as many people to come to us and get a T-shirt, get a hoodie and say, this is great. We're going to keep this and we're going to keep it for the next 5-6 years. We don't need to come back to you. We'll tell our friend because it's great and hopefully they'll come and buy it from you. But we don't want to see you all the time. That's not the point. That's not what we're trying to achieve. We sourced everything so carefully in order to make sure that we would achieve that goal. I believe it. And I just hope that enough people sort of share this with us and can say, yeah, you know what, I'm going to buy this. I'm going to tell all my friends. We have a very small markup on what we produce. Like I said, we're not trying to take over the world. And we just hope that in some small way, it helps towards this shift that we're hoping to see.
It's almost like a brand as a statement versus brand as enterprise.
Absolutely. I mean, you sort of hit the nail on the head there, Quinn. This originally started off as like a passion project and a mission. In our eyes, it was a mission. We weren't people that were saying, we want to go out and start a company. We believe that something needs to change in fashion. We came from backgrounds where we'd seen a lot of fast fashion and what it was doing to the planet. We do other things in our lives like replanting trees and reforestation programs in Portugal. So we have a very strong tie to protecting the planet and our environment. And we have 3 kids and, I'm scared for the world and the future for them. And people say, what can you do? What can you do? Of course, it's really difficult, but every small step that you make, every small thing has an impact. And for us, this was that step. This was the change that we thought we could see. And that's why we're doing this.
What do you think the younger generations are doing better than we did?
I think they are more conscious. I think something I've noticed in the younger generations and nieces and nephews of mine is they do really believe that what they say and what they do is what defines them more than necessarily what they wear. I don't know how this sort of cultural shift has come about through the generations. I remember feeling a lot of pressure as a sort of a teen or growing up around the clothes you wear, the style you have, the look. And
totally. I mean, 80s and 90s when I was growing up, I mean, if you weren't, didn't have a certain brand, like you weren't cool.
Exactly.
It's still there in our...
It is, to some degree.
It is.
Not with the younger ones, like you're saying. I mean, well, some of them, but it's more about, I want this brand because I know it's good for my skin, or I want this one because, sometimes it's peer pressure, all my friends have it.
Yeah. But I just see this sort of shift that it's I don't know, maybe it's the kids that I know and they're sort of different, but I don't feel they need the clothes to, sort of show who they are, express who they are. They're doing it through the things that they're doing.
Gotcha.
And I love that. Maybe it's a sort of underlying rebellion that's taken place over the years. But I feel really positive about it. I feel that it's something that I hope it lasts and that my children go through the same thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've got our next generation to get going and gearing them up to do what we do, and they're going to learn from us, right?
Absolutely.
Quinn, I know we're going to move to the next segment, and you know what that is, right? Across the pond.
Across the pond.
Across the pond
what does FIFI mean? Like, where'd you come up with that name?
There is a story there, but I'm not sure I can
Okay.
100% give it away. I think that there is a story there because interestingly, it's a very commonly used name. So when we were looking for things like domains and things, FIFI appears everywhere. And it sounds slightly sort of fluffy and airy, but it's got quite a strong meaning behind it. I
But you're
think
not going to
watch
tell
this
us.
space
Okay.
to find out for the big reveal as to what it means.
Ooh,
All right, I'm
okay.
looking
I
forward to the
like
brand video. So
I
send me a
like
script.
that. All right.
Okay,
So,
can we
Quinn,
do across the pond now?
yeah, let's do it. I think this
All
is
right.
you asking the question, right?
Yes.
Go on.
So, Naz, you're in Portugal, and FIFI is Portuguese at its core. Any surprising cultural differences in how people approach fashion and sustainability in the UK? And I mean, I could speak to the US and Portugal.
I mean, I think something that's really interesting and again sort of contributed to the whole idea behind FIFI is Portugal has a hugely rich history in terms of textiles, and not a lot of people will know this that aren't from Portugal. But the north of Portugal has a big textile industry historically, and we have factories and incredible seamstresses who are incredibly trained and are able to sort of turn around products and things and have spent years doing this and that's their job and they're skilled and they love what they do. And I think that also helped sort of behind the idea of let's do this in Portugal. You know, it's an industry that has been, you know, crafted and loved and honed for years. And so there's an experience and a legacy here that we wanted to sort of, you know, take advantage of. And that's slightly different, I guess, to somewhere like the UK where I'm from, where, you know, that it's probably it may have existed in the past, but now it's probably more about sort of automation and factories and less, you know, individuals. And so I think we wanted to use that history as part of our story as well. So that's a big cultural difference. And I think just overall, people are more sort of family-centric, family-orientated. So in terms of things like the sharing of the clothes and the things, it's natural. It's all very natural.
I know here in the United States, we don't make anything. So that's a huge
I
cultural
wonder.
difference, that, short of like couture fashion, which is, hand stitched and, some, factory in New York.
Yeah.
Essentially everything that we make comes from somewhere else. And I'm talking about in terms of, I mean, I have heard of brands that have been popping up that have, really touted their sourcing of American grown cotton and other materials that are used to make clothing. But in terms of being able to manufacture anything at scale, that just really it doesn't exist at a proportional level that I would say makes any real difference.
You talked about in the local markets, right? You were saying that we're going to sell locally, distribution and everything, right? So
Yeah.
where are you currently set up? And are there
So
any differences between the consumers?
interestingly, we're actually marketing and starting all the operations in the UK. So we produce everything, and then we have a sort of a shipment has gone to the UK, and then everything has been stored in the UK and will ship from the UK to UK customers. The reason for this is actually a sort of going back to the question about cultural. We just felt that there was more. More awareness and more demand of conscious consumerism in the UK than there perhaps is in Portugal right now. It's something that we felt from sort of experience in the fashion world, from conversations we had with different groups of people in both countries, and just what we've seen in terms of the marketplace, in terms of growth of different brands that are trying to do things similar to us. I think that will change, and over time, I hope that shift will occur, and eventually we will start marketing and selling in Portugal. But for now, our one market that we've started in and operating in is the UK. Let's see what
I need to
happens.
be
Watch this
walking
space.
around with your brand,
You
your
do,
clothing?
you do, you do. You need one of our FIFI jumpers.
I
I'm still
do.
waiting for my swag bag. I'm assuming it will be here any day.
Well,
Other
I
than
don't want to ship
seeing,
it from Portugal, you see, across the world. So I'll wait for somebody to go and visit in the US and bring it
oh,
She's
to
I
you
see.
coming.
So I
personally.
need to get on a jetliner and go over there and pick it up. Okay.
Hey,
I-
wait, Quinn, when did you say you're coming? In September?
Really depends on when my passport is ready. I'm
All right.
doing everything I can to get that paperwork done and all that. So I'm
Oh, well,
hoping it will
you
be
will
in
have a
September.
set of 6 items waiting for you when you land in the
All right,
UK.
I'll send you my sizes.
So,
Uh,
Naz, I know we're gonna go, Quinn. You know I have to get into questions still. So are these what kind of clothing is it? So I can't wear it in office, can I?
So it's casual clothing. So we have 2 t-shirts, a polo, a hoodie, and joggers. So it really is casual clothing. You know, I'm wearing one of the t-shirts now. Good quality. I've got a hoodie here. And it's about being comfortable and at home. I mean, the interesting thing now is that actually people seem to be wearing similar things in the office and at home. There's less of this, you know, formality and going into the office in you know, kind of trousers and shirts. And actually you see a lot of people, and probably the audience that we're appealing to, you know, the younger generations are going in their tracksuit bottoms and hoodies into the office.
Okay, so that means I'm going to push my own fashion. I'm going to wear a pair of heels under it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Shall we move into
sustainably
our
sourced heels, of course.
heels that I've had for the past 12 years? And
That
COVID
were
came,
passed
so I
down to
never
you
wore
from
them.
somebody.
My feet are small compared to everyone else.
Yeah, just
People
like
used to make fun of me. They used to say, "Do you get your shoes from Mother Cares, a baby's brand?" I used to
what
shop
size
in
are your
children's
feet,
section.
Nyla?
But I was going to say
You-
it's really good for the wallet because you can shop in the children's section.
Yes, UK 4 and sometimes 3.5 if they're
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
heels.
wow. Oh, that is
Yeah,
small.
yeah. And
So
before
that's
the
what, like
baby, I
a
was
5 or a 6 in US, or okay,
probably,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that
And before
is.
it's small?
Just to give you a frame of
That's small.
reference, my 12-year-old wears a size 8.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah,
hey,
Yeah.
she's got a big feet. So
you know my older sister who's 5 years older? She's even smaller than me.
How is that
Yeah.
wow,
even possible? I thought 3 was the smallest size.
that's like
Uh,
Nyla has great
well,
coordination on those, and balance
I
on
do.
those tiny little.
So, shall we move into our future segment? And usually we take out the crystal ball for this.
The future.
Yeah.
If we keep pushing sustainability, what do you think in the next 10 to 20 years? And I think you've touched upon it a bit. What does it look like in 10 to 20 years? What does brands and fashion and clothing look like?
I mean, for me, in an ideal world, fast fashion will be obsolete. It will have gone. We won't see it. It will be about slow, conscious consumerism, exactly what I was talking about earlier, where people are going to demand the transparency and the journey of a piece of clothing, so they can really trace it all the way back and say, yeah, this is, I believe in this company. I believe this has been produced ethically. And we will see, again, very ideal. No longer will there be landfills. No longer will there be people getting paid, below average wages for their work. We will have, people being treated fairly, labour practices that are, in line with legislation, and hopefully closing the entire kind of circular economy loop. That's what we would love to be a part of. That's what we're hoping to contribute to. We would love to be remembered as a brand that helped close that loop.
You touched
It's
upon
certainly
that
a
word.
wonderful ideal, assuming that robots aren't making all of that in 10 or 20
Yeah.
years.
We can go into like fabrics and the future of fabrics in another episode, because when I was at DuPont, and this is like 20 years ago, they were already talking about the future of fabrics, microfabrics, chips in the fabric, but that's another conversation.
It definitely reminds me of a guest we had who's created a soil and marine biodegradable plastic that has
Wow.
an amazing range of uses. And so one of his best friends is looking to launch a brand of sustainable apparel called Salt Love, and so we've already been thinking about like what could this plastic be used for? Buttons, um,
Nice.
zippers, maybe you know things that clasp because it's a very durable plastic. But if it ends up in a landfill or
Mm.
ends up in the ocean, it will be consumed by microbes. It just
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
disappears within like a year. So I do think that there's hope. I did have a question. What does circular industry or circular economy mean?
I was gonna ask that. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to say I'm going to answer that. I
No.
think it. Oh,
No, we don't know. We're here to learn things. We're just, you know,
I
two
think
chicks
it's
with a
about.
microphone. So
So it's about having the whole sort of thing closing the loop. So it's about sort of, from the point when you start, we're sourcing the materials sort of from somewhere that's sustainable, and then it's being produced in a sustainable way, being shipped then in a sustainable way, stored in a sustainable way, and then, stored and then shipped out in a sustainable way. So the entire, a value chain customer sort of journey is sustainable. So I think a lot of companies at the moment are doing one piece of the loop very well or focusing on one piece, but they're not actually taking the whole journey into account. And we are trying to do that at FIFI.
Yeah, you talked about there's literally 4 R's, right? So how do you reduce? So if you're using plastics, how do you reduce plastic? So it goes all the way back to R&D and how you develop. How do you recycle in the whole process? How do you reuse something in that process? So clothing reusing, and the other one is regenerate. So how do you regenerate through that process? It's not easy. Again, all actors and players need to play together, but it's about thinking differently when you're designing a product, when you're manufacturing a product, when you're marketing a product, when it's at the consumer end. It's like when you take water out of the ground, how do you ensure it's going back? Right? So what you take out needs to go back. It's that kind of thinking.
Absolutely. And to sort of close that loop, somebody would finish with the product of ours and then actually then share it with a friend or their, son or daughter, and then that person would use it. And when they're eventually finished with it, hopefully many, many, many years down the line, that product might be used to then regenerate and create the next Fifi jumper, perhaps in a different color. So that really is about kind of closing the whole loop.
say it isn't so. Well, eventually black does fade to gray. So,
Exactly.
but I'm sure
I
you
Exactly.
still
use pretty amazing dye, and that holds up, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
exactly. So, Naz, if you had to redesign the whole industry, I won't call it fashion because you're not really you're talking about the clothing industry and all of that, and you
mm,
could start from scratch. What is that one
mm.
thing you would start with?
That's the question I wanted you to ask. I was just like, this is the one thing I want to know of this
Yeah.
whole interview. If you could start over and do it the way that you envision would make a better world, what would that look like?
I think it's about design for longevity. It's about that. You have to design for the long term. You have to design items that are durable, items that will last. And I think that's not what's happening currently. I think now we design for trends, we design for collections, we design for groups of consumers, and those things aren't made to last. And that's what ends up pushing sort of overconsumption and why things end up on landfill. So for me, it's right back down to the design, and that's a huge shift in everything, in mindset for the industry, for people, for brands, organizations, and again, all the things that we talked about earlier on in this session.
You,
Let's
yeah.
stop trying to
How about
produce
here in the
things.
United States? We should start making things a bit again. So,
I,
Definitely.
hey, Quinn is like saying, "Hey, let's do something together."
yeah,
That's
Yeah,
it.
we'll
if we
start
want,
Fifi over there. No problem.
sure,
Yeah,
Which is, I think we need a
yeah,
base.
Fifi
yeah,
US,
yeah. Naz,
Fifi
but you
Florida.
yeah, why not? You talked about it though. If you start with design, it's because they're consciously designing like that for profit. You talked about the fact that we're not in this for profit. We're in this to
Mm,
change how things are happening. So I think there's
yeah.
something about people need to stop thinking about well, when a business might not exist, but there are ways of existing if you don't put profit in mind first.
I mean, let's be realistic. Obviously, we're not doing this just for the fun of it.
For free, yeah.
We're not doing it for free. We've got a family. We've got bills like everybody else. It's about the scale of the profit. It's about being fair. It's about being, equal in what we're doing. So we want to pay the people that are producing this a fair, price. We want the people that are making this, that are helping ship this. We want everybody to have their cut. But we've got to a point now where organizations and brands and companies, their profits are so wild and out of touch with the individuals making the actual product. So I read a statistic recently, which said something like, the CEO of a company will be earning something crazy. I can't even remember the exact number, something like 130 or something times more than, the individual making the item. That's just not necessary. It's not necessary to have such a huge discrepancy within organizations. Why should somebody get so much more than another individual simply because of their status, their role within an organization? And that's something that's really core to our values at FIFI as well. We want to make some profit, but, just enough for us to live on that's fair. It's nothing crazy. It's just not needed.
What's the legacy that you hope FIFI is going to leave behind?
Good question. I think we would like to be remembered as a brand that close the loop and open minds.
I think that's well said. Shall we move to the wrap? What's one takeaway you want your listeners to carry with them the next time they shop?
You are not your
Don't
clothes.
do Amazon Prime.
No, definitely not. It really is about this. You are unique. You are not your clothes. Your clothes don't define you.
I think
That's
that's
her
well
tag.
said.
You are unique. You're not defined by your clothes. Okay. I
Yeah.
love that.
Well, that wraps
Okay.
this episode
So-
of Now, Near, in the Future. And I just stepped on your line.
Go for it.
No, I've already
Go.
interrupted you, so I apologize. So
Oh, no. So that wraps up this episode of Now, Near, in the Future. I'm not saying it in an American accent. You can find us on all the usual platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, and YouTube. You can follow us on Instagram and on LinkedIn at Now Near Future, or visit us at nownearfuture.com.
And if you love this episode, be sure to share it, subscribe, leave a review. That's how we gain listeners and help to educate the world about better ways to shop and buy. And I think that's a good thing. And if you didn't like it, maybe just pretend your headphones died.
I love it. So Naz, where can people find you and find FIFI online?
Okay, so we are on Instagram, FIFI Wear, and we have a website that is up and running. We would love to see you, and it is www.fifi-wear.com.
We'll be sure to put that on
Excellent.
the screen as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Naz, thank you so much for being here. This was inspiring, eye-opening, and very well dressed.
Thank you very much for
Love
having
it.
me, guys. We've loved
And
it.
as always, stay curious, keep dreaming, and we will
See you in the future.
see you in the future.